This is the best case scenario for the Toronto Raptors moving forward, but to pursue this path, it would be a serious risk for this team. So we're going to break down what this best case scenario is. You probably saw them in the thumbnail, but what risks would be involved now that are probably mitigated after the Toronto Raptors lost their lottery pick in this year's NBA draft, but the risks Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, the front office would have to take on if they do pursue this path. So lots of stuff to sink our teeth into in this video because this is a very sort of controversial topic over the past week or so regarding the plans of the Toronto Raptors in the future. Now, I've been outspoken here on YouTube about my disappointment, my displeasure, my deflation about this Toronto Raptors team losing their lottery pick in this year's NBA draft. In my opinion, it's just always better to get the draft pick prospect early, and especially when we have a scouting department like this Raptors team has had over the past decade. Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, this front office has done a really good job at drafting players. And despite the fact, articles are coming out being written left, right, and center about how bad this year's draft class is, I still would have preferred us having our draft pick this year. And still, we have protections on the draft pick next season, to make some selections and to have a prospect in-house moving forward, despite, Bill Simmons, Ryan Russillo, were giving indications that this draft class might be so bad, it's almost as if there's an average draft class, but it starts at pick number 10 rather than, your top usual 10 prospects. I think that's a major exaggeration. I predict like any draft class, you're able to find potential all-stars, but I digress. I was still disappointed in the Raptors losing that draft pick now, but that's a sunk cost. We're done talking about that. That's in the past. We're looking forward, and now the Raptors guaranteed have their draft pick for next season, so there have been some Raptors fans saying, hey, this team, despite the fact we have some great players, IQ, Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, really good basketball players, young guys core to this team that could have an impact on winning. Regardless of how all of that's going to shake out, maybe it makes sense for the Toronto Raptors to throw away one more year and get a high draft pick for this upcoming NBA draft class. And now with our guaranteed pick, there's not the risk that we had of tanking I don't think we purposely tanked again. The Toronto Tank 2024 was all sort of circumstantial because we did make trades to thin out our roster, but I think we had hopes of winning, but dealt with so many injuries, the tank is just what ended up happening. But if the Toronto Raptors go into next year, there isn't the risk of losing a ton of games, demoralizing the fan base, potentially, which I don't think happened last season, demoralizing your players, and not getting a draft pick, not getting that draft selection. So there's that risk is now mitigated with the Raptors getting their pick in 2025. But what is the golden prize? What is the reward if the Toronto Raptors take the risk of losing some games, of taking some L's, of things that are going on there at this point? And again, I've been injecting the copium. I've been looking at every article I'm reading about how bad the 2024 class is, and I have been, looking at the red flags of the 2024 class and looking at the Cooper Flaggs of the 2025 one, because Cooper Flagg is a guy that would fit this Toronto Raptors roster perfectly. He would slide in exactly what this Toronto Raptors roster needs, and frankly, just be perfect for this team. And his stats don't jump off the wall at you in terms of who he is. 6'9", 195 pounds, led his high school team to 31-0 record, which is pretty insane. Averaged 16 points per game, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, close to 3 blocks, 2.7 blocks, and 1.6 steals a night. He was the 2024 Naismith National High School Player of the Year award and is just an all-around monster. I've been watching this guy's highlights. I've been praying to keep our draft pick now. All those prayers have moved straight to Cooper Flagg being a potential Toronto Raptor next season. And I'm not someone that's eager to tank, to lose games, and all that type of stuff. So his stats aren't crazy overwhelming. Why does he make sense for this Toronto Raptors team? Well, looking at our roster, again, we have IQ, we have RJ, we have Scotty. 3 guys at the 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, and 3 positions that are great for this roster. We're going to see who we draft. We have Kelly Olynyk at center. We have Jakob Poeltl, obviously, at that center spot. But we really need to bolster that sort of forward position here right now. And Cooper Flagg can space the floor. He can facilitate. He can score off the dribble. But more importantly, he is regarded as one of the top defenders in this upcoming NBA draft class. Despite the fact he's an elite offensive guy, he's just a dude that is bona fide. Defensively, you're just not getting around. I watched defensive highlights, offensive highlights of Cooper Flagg, and this man would just come in and perfectly slot himself into exactly what the Toronto Raptors are doing in 2025. So, again, I get where people are coming from. Yelling out, Josh Lewenberg yelling out, let's tank this team right from the jump. Let's trade Jakob Poeltl and get to a position where, hey, this team could, lose games right from the jump, get the 15% chance odds to land a generational potential prospect. And he's not going to be a generational scorer. He's not going to be one of those dudes that's a Victor Wembanyama in that sense, but defensively is a generational type of player, and then also has the intangibles to be an awesome guy out there on the offensive end. So I completely get it. I'm injecting this Kobe. I'm trying to get hyped up about something, and Cooper Flagg could be a really interesting piece for next season. We're definitely going to keep our eyes on him, especially as the season goes along next year. And I'm seeing a lot of people just saying, hey, the Raptors throw away the season, trade Jakob Poeltl, and develop guys once again, try to find some decent players, and then, lose games right from the jump and all that type of stuff. So I get it. And frankly, long term, I agree. Getting Cooper Flagg is the best case scenario for the Toronto Raptors. Completely understand. Not going to get any arguments from me out here from commenters and stuff. And I'm going back because I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to anything that's going on. But I think this is definitely just the best case outcome. But there's no right or wrong answer in terms of what the Raptors should potentially do. And despite the fact that this would be the best possible path, the highest potential outcome, I don't think it's a smart play to pursue. Because frankly, I think the Toronto Raptors made that move with OG Anunoby to bring in two guys that weren't necessarily draft picks, bring in two guys that could potentially be star guys right now. But if you go through another full season of tanking, purposefully losing games to get Cooper Flagg, like trading Jakob Poeltl would blatantly indicate to the players, we are trying to lose games. This roster isn't constructed in a way that makes sense to win. I just think that's a really bad precedent to set for your team. And as we saw with the Detroit Pistons this year, you only have a 15% chance of landing a Cooper Flagg. And frankly, the probabilities are still decent if you're the 7th, 8th, 9th pick or whatever's going on for this team. The Atlanta Hawks, who had a 2% chance, were the 13th, I think, best odds to get the number 1 overall pick, got the number 1 selection in this year's draft. The Houston Rockets, who had a better record than the Toronto Raptors, got into the top 4 in this year's NBA draft. The Raptors are in a position where we don't need to really go all the way to the bottom. The difference between a 10% probability and getting Cooper Flagg, right, I don't think is worth completely throwing away next season. I don't think it is. Even the high probabilities, Wembanyama maybe should have been, but Cooper Flagg, 10% probabilities. I just don't think it makes a ton of sense to completely tank out next year and throw away a potential possibility. Trading Jakob Poeltl, you're throwing in the white flag before the season starts. Or if you don't bring in another center, you're going in with an imbalanced roster. That'd be the ideal, trading Jakob Poeltl. Going into next season with an imbalanced roster, I don't think it's a smart move to increase probabilities. We just got bit in the butt for playing probabilities out there at the end of this year's draft, in the 2024 draft. I don't think it's worth nuking our roster once again. Even if the fact that the team isn't complete, we have enough young pieces, enough potential young stars to build and grow and develop this group, build a winning culture right now to get to that spot, despite the fact Cooper Flagg being the best case scenario for this group. But let me know what you guys think. I know this is there's reasonable debates on both sides of things, so I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. But you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.